In 1922, on a remote farm nestled deep within the Bavarian countryside of Germany, a series of events unfolded that continues to defy explanation to this day. This isolated homestead, known as Hinterkaifeck, became the scene of an unspeakable tragedy. A family vanished from their routines, yet the farm itself did not fall silent. Smoke was observed rising from its chimney. Animals were reportedly fed and cared for. For days, an eerie normalcy seemed to cling to the property, leading many to believe that someone, or something, remained inside the house long after the family was gone. Hinterkaifeck was not situated in a bustling village or near a well-traveled road. It was a place of profound isolation, surrounded by vast, open fields and dense forests, where the nearest neighbors were a considerable distance away. This geographical solitude meant that every distant sound carried clearly, and the arrival of any stranger would be an event noticed and commented upon. Here, the Gruber family, including Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and her two young children, Kazilia and Joseph, made their home. In March of 1922, a new maid, Maria Baumgartner, had just arrived at the farm. Within a mere handful of days, the name Hinterkaifeck would be forever etched into the annals of Germany's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. Before the unthinkable tragedy occurred, a series of strange and increasingly unsettling incidents began to plague the inhabitants of Hinterkaifeck. These were not mere coincidences, but rather a collection of anomalies that, in retrospect, paint a chilling picture of a farm under surveillance. Weeks prior to the murders, Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, reported finding inexplicable footprints in the fresh snow. These footprints led directly from the dense, dark forest towards the farmhouse. Crucially, there were no corresponding footprints leading back, suggesting that whoever had approached the farm had either remained there, or found an alternative, unseen way to depart. This detail alone sparked a deep sense of unease among the family. The strange occurrences escalated. The family reported hearing distinct footsteps and rustling noises originating from the attic of the farmhouse. Despite thorough searches, no one was ever found hidden within the dusty rafters, deepening the mystery of who, or what, was lurking above them. Adding to this growing sense of dread, a newspaper that no one in the family remembered purchasing mysteriously appeared on their doorstep. Then, perhaps the most unsettling detail, a set of house keys, essential for securing their isolated home, vanished without a trace from their customary hook. These seemingly small, disconnected details, when pieced together, began to form a terrifying hypothesis: someone may have been watching, studying, and perhaps even living undetected on the farm, meticulously planning an attack long before the ultimate crime took place. As March of 1922 drew to a close, the isolated calm of Hinterkaifeck was shattered. Investigators later reconstructed the chilling sequence of events, believing that the victims were attacked around March 31st. It is thought that Andreas Gruber was lured into the barn first, perhaps to deal with a perceived problem, and was struck down. His wife, Kazilia, was likely next, followed by his daughter Victoria Gabriel. Then, the youngest Kazilia, Victoria's daughter, was also led to the barn. All four were found together, brutally murdered. The method of their deaths was horrific, yet the precise order and the killer's cold, methodical approach remained deeply disturbing. The fact that they were seemingly called out one by one into the darkness suggests a killer who knew the farm's layout and the family's habits. The horror did not end in the barn. Inside the farmhouse, the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, and the youngest child, Joseph, were also found deceased. The details of their demise were equally brutal, but the overarching mystery surrounding the entire event only deepened from here. Whoever committed these heinous acts was not only capable of extreme violence but also displayed an intimate knowledge of the farm and its inhabitants. They moved through the property with purpose, executing their plan with cold precision. Yet, what happened next was almost impossible to comprehend, adding a layer of chilling psychological complexity to an already gruesome crime. The killer's actions after the murders would perplex investigators for decades. Perhaps the most profoundly unsettling aspect of the Hinterkaifeck mystery is the strong evidence suggesting that the killer did not immediately flee the scene after the murders. In the days following the brutal acts, neighbors and passers-by reported seeing signs of life on the farm. Smoke continued to rise from the chimney, a clear indication that fires were being tended. The livestock, including the cattle and chickens, were reportedly fed and watered, their routines maintained. Food appeared to have been eaten from the pantry and kitchen table. If these observations are true, it means that the perpetrator, or perpetrators, remained at Hinterkaifeck for several days, living amongst their victims, walking through the same rooms, sleeping under the same roof, and meticulously keeping up the facade of a living, breathing farm, purely to delay discovery. The thought of the killer maintaining this macabre charade is deeply unsettling. Imagine the cold calculation required to live on, day after day, in the immediate aftermath of such horrific violence, going about the mundane chores of farm life while the bodies of the murdered family lay undiscovered nearby. This level of psychological fortitude and strategic cunning suggests not a frenzied act, but a deliberate and deeply disturbed mind. It allowed the killer precious time to clean up, to obscure any potential evidence, and to create a significant delay before anyone suspected that something was gravely wrong at Hinterkaifeck. This extended presence is a chilling testament to the perpetrator's composure and determination, a detail that continues to haunt those who study the case. Eventually, the sustained absence of the Gruber family began to arouse serious suspicion among their few neighbors and the local community. The children had not appeared at school for several days, an unusual occurrence. The family had not been seen for their usual errands or Sunday church service. Concerns grew, prompting a small group of neighbors to venture towards the isolated farm to investigate. What they discovered on April 4, 1922, was a scene of unimaginable horror. Upon entering the property, they found the brutalized bodies of all 6 inhabitants, Andreas and Kazilia Gruber, Victoria Gabriel and her 2 children, Kazilia and Joseph, and the newly arrived maid, Maria Baumgartner. The gruesome discovery confirmed their worst fears and plunged the quiet Bavarian countryside into shock. The scene that confronted the first responders and investigators was deeply perplexing, immediately presenting more questions than answers. This was clearly not a simple robbery. While some money and small valuables were missing, a significant amount of cash, as well as other easily portable valuables, were reportedly left behind, untouched. This absence of a clear, compelling financial motive complicated the entire investigation. It suggested a different, perhaps more personal, motive behind the brutal slayings. The killer had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a profound vacuum of understanding and a community gripped by fear. The meticulously maintained farm, the 6 dead bodies, and the lack of a clear reason formed a haunting tableau of crime. The immediate aftermath saw a wide-ranging, yet ultimately fruitless, police investigation. Dozens of people from the surrounding villages and towns were questioned, their alibis scrutinized, and their relationships with the Gruber family examined. Rumors, as they always do in such isolated communities, spread rapidly through the region, fueled by fear and speculation. Some suspected a local person, someone intimately familiar with the farm's layout, the family's routines, and the hidden passages or entry points. Others theorized that the killer might have been a transient, hiding nearby in the dense forests, or perhaps even a phantom presence, living undetected within the very walls of the house before launching their deadly assault. Despite the diligent efforts of the investigators, their work was hampered by several significant limitations inherent to the era. Forensic science in the 1920s was still in its nascent stages, lacking the sophisticated tools and techniques available today. Crucially, the crime scene itself had been significantly disturbed before police fully secured it. Curious neighbors and local officials had entered the farmhouse and barn, inevitably contaminating potential evidence, leaving behind their own footprints and disturbing objects. This early interference made the task of identifying and preserving crucial clues immeasurably more difficult. As the initial frenzy of the investigation faded, and with no clear breakthrough, the trail grew colder with every passing day, pushing the case further into the realm of the unsolved. Over the many decades that followed, the Hinterkaifeck mystery continued to captivate and frustrate, giving rise to numerous theories and potential suspects. Some of these theories focused intensely on individuals who had known the Gruber family intimately, or who had previous connections to the farm. These included former maids, disgruntled employees, or even family members themselves, hinting at internal disputes, jealousy, or potential inheritance squabbles that might have escalated to violence. Other theories explored the possibility of a lover's quarrel, a secret affair gone terribly wrong, given the strained family dynamics and whispers of an incestuous relationship between Andreas Gruber and his daughter Victoria. Other theories veered towards the possibility of an unknown intruder, a drifter, or someone with a more generalized grievance, perhaps against the isolated rural way of life itself. Some even suggested a small group of perpetrators, working in concert. Many believed the killer had to be someone who knew the farm well enough to navigate it in the dark, to lure victims, and to keep the farm running. Yet, every single theory proposed faced significant hurdles. The available evidence was always incomplete or circumstantial. Motives remained uncertain, based largely on speculation. And crucially, despite repeated investigations and renewed interest over the years, no suspect was ever definitively proven to be the killer. The sheer lack of concrete, undeniable proof ensured that every theory remained just that, a theory, adding to the enduring enigma. The Hinterkaifeck case endures as one of Germany's most chilling mysteries precisely because of its array of unanswered and deeply disturbing details. Who were the authors of those mysterious footprints leading to the farm, yet never back? Who was the unseen presence moving stealthily in the attic, tormenting the family with their undetected proximity? Why did the house keys, a symbol of security, vanish just before the calamity? Perhaps most haunting of all, what compelled a killer to stay after the crime, to feed the animals, to tend the fires, and to maintain the illusion of a living farm, as if the 6 brutal murders had simply never occurred? These questions pierce through the decades, resonating with a quiet dread that refuses to fade. More than a century later, the Hinterkaifeck case was never officially solved. The passage of time inexorably eroded critical leads. Potential witnesses aged, their memories faded, or they passed away, taking their insights with them. Police records became fragmented and incomplete, making a comprehensive cold case review increasingly difficult. The farmhouse itself, a silent witness to the atrocities, was eventually demolished in 1923, just a year after the murders, as if the community sought to erase the physical reminder of such pervasive evil. Yet, the mystery stubbornly remained, refusing to be buried with the farm. Hinterkaifeck became more than just a crime scene, it became a powerful, chilling symbol of rural fear. It embodied the terrifying idea that danger was not necessarily an external, distant threat, but could emanate from someone intimately familiar with the rhythms of one's own home and family. Someone close enough to know the exact layout of the house, the workings of the barn doors, and the daily routines. More than 100 years later, no one definitively knows who killed the 6 people at Hinterkaifeck. The farm is gone, its physical presence erased. The original suspects are gone. The witnesses are gone. But the profound and haunting questions remain, echoing in the dark silence. Who walked to that isolated farmhouse on that fateful night? Who stayed after the murders? And why did they vanish without ever leaving behind a name, leaving a century of questions in their wake?